Bannymon, and welcome to today's video and welcome to another WWE reaction. This video was recommended by Yanks Great and he said you should react to DX story. I think I should because it's been a while since I learned anything new about these characters in WWE, and I think this one will teach me a bit more, especially about the background of Triple H because he's still very relevant and important, as you know. So let's go and check out this video, shall we?
In the late 90s, there were a few staple wrestling shirts you would see around the schoolyard. One popular one, of course, was Austin 316, while elsewhere, there was always plenty of NWO shirts going around too. Aside from these, though, perhaps the most popular of them all was D-Generation X. Yes, as everyone's favorite group of rebels, DX broke every rule and pressed every button that was in their reach, with this ultimately managing to capture the hearts of every teenage boy and girl that was watching, as whether it be in their first, second, third, or later fourth incarnations, they were always able to irritate the right people and come out on top in the process. So, with that said, for the thousands of attendants and the millions watching at home, let's get ready to take a deep dive into their entire career history and break it down, the D-Generation X story.
Yay.
Of course, it all starts with the Clique. Yes, in the mid-90s, WWE's backstage area was pretty much run by 5 men: Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Triple H, and Sean Waltman. With these friends, who would collectively be known as the Clique, regularly using their political power to get themselves the best spots on the card, all while burying those they didn't like. Come 1996, though, WWE's financial issues and the promises of big money contracts from Ted Turner would see 2 of them, Hall and Nash, jump ship, later to be joined by Waltman too, with this leaving the backstage power unit a shadow of what it once was, as now only HBK and the Game remained. And on top of that, by then having learned his lesson, Vince McMahon was doing everything he could to keep the remaining Clique members apart. That was how, by 1997, Michaels was in a main event feud with Bret Hart, while elsewhere on the card, far away from that, Triple H was working his way up the mid-card, having just recently added a bodyguard to his act in the form of Chyna. Desires to keep the two apart, they still remained close friends behind the scenes, and given the considerable amount of power that HBK still had at this time, eventually he was able to convince McMahon to let the two unite on screen, with this first happening on the August 11th, 1997 episode of Raw, where the Game and Chyna would both interfere on the Champ's match against Mankind, with the on-screen implication being that, as the Greenwich Blue Blood had already been feuding with Foley at this point, the two heels had forged an alliance going forward. And soon after this, a 4th member would be added to the burgeoning Stable 2 in the form of Rick Rude, someone who was referred to as their insurance policy and who would watch from ringside as Shawn and Hunter teamed up together to take on Mankind and The Undertaker, the latter being the man who the champ was about to face at the next pay-per-view, Ground Zero, in your house. Hell, even when the time for that latter match came, Triple H and Chyna would remain in their friend's corner, helping him throughout it as the whole thing ended up devolving into a brawl that was eventually called off as a no contest. Yes, the message was clear by now. If you messed with any one member of this new group, you messed with them all. And as the weeks went on and their beef with The Undertaker continued, they continued to get more over. All this despite being heels, as their crude brand of humor during interview segments and anti-authority attitude perfectly fit in with the late 90s culture of the anti-hero. In fact, it was reportedly after seeing a segment where the group had gone to the ring with rolled-up socks down their shorts that McMahon decided this was the direction the company needed to move into going forward, arguing then that their attitude was what the company needed. And it was also around this time that, while still feuding with the Deadman, the group would make a brief detour, as HBK prepared for a European title match against the British Bulldog at the September 20th UK pay-per-view one night only. When that night came, though, despite the Bulldog having been told that he would be winning and so subsequently dedicating the victory to his younger sister who was battling cancer at the time, the bratty Michaels would end up getting the finish changed so that he could come out the champion instead, with this hugely angering pretty much—
How do you do that? Wait. So you tell him he's winning and then you change the plan in the actual match? Like, how does Bulldog go with that? Like, does Sean like just literally whisper in his ear and like, hey, yo, bro, just so you know, you're losing. Like, what? And it is so mean because that one was supposed to be dedicated to his sister who's dying from cancer. Like, so cruel on so many levels.
Everyone backstage, none more so than the Hart family themselves. Yes, by now, the real-life hatred between HBK and Bret Hart in particular had become so vitriolic that it had seeped over into on-screen promo segments between the two. And while WWE, fully aware of the huge money match they still had in their pocket, tried to corral the two into settling things professionally in the ring, the new European champ would be forced to settle his beef with The Undertaker inside the first ever Hell in a Cell match, with this being specifically designed so as to stop Triple H, Chyna, and Rick Rude from interfering. In the end, though, the surprise debut of Kane would see Michaels not only win that night, but become #1 contender to the WWE title in the process. So in the weeks that followed that, further barbs would be thrown back and forth between Michaels and Hart, with the Canadian at one point inadvertently coming up with the name of his rival's stable when he referred to them as degenerates during an interview segment. Taking this to heart then, the champ and his lackeys would begin calling themselves D-Generation X going forward, with the idea being that this was merely a branch of the Clique, as alongside the NWO over in WCW, the group of friends had been able...
When you get like a really bad nickname and everybody's calling you that, and instead of like getting beaten by it, you take it and use it and abuse it. That's what they did with this title and the nickname. And now they are DX Stories. They're like, oh yeah, we are embracing this and we are going to show you who are the real Ds. And this time, you know what the D is for. No, it's not for that thing.
Able to divide and subsequently conquer the entire wrestling industry. And of course, if anyone else had a problem with it, they had two words for them. That said, despite already being a controversial act by this point, come the November 9th, 1997 Survivor Series, things would reach an altogether different level when Michaels and Triple H colluded with Vince McMahon and a few key other players to screw Bret Hart out of the WWE title prior to him leaving for Ted Turner's company, with this incident later becoming known as the Montreal Screwjob.
Okay.
Now, we won't go into detail about the screw job here because it's a story of its own, but suffice to say, it left DX and HBK in particular as not only the biggest heels in the company on screen to fans, but also to their colleagues behind the scenes. As while the champ would deny his involvement in the incident for years, few actually believed this to be true at the time. And as an added consequence of this, Rick Rude would quit the company in disgust too, with this forcing the now 3 remaining degenerates to capitalize on the monster heat they were receiving as the new WWE champion entered into a brief feud with Owen Hart, all while elsewhere, Triple H and Chyna were drawing the ire of WWE's on-screen commissioner, Sergeant Slaughter.
Okay.
Hell, at one point, Slaughter would even try to get one up on the heels by forcing them to face off against each other for the European title, which HBK still held, and pretty much gave him the title, reasoning that he never even wanted it in the first place, this being one last slap in the face to the British Bulldog and the rest of the Hart clan. Yes, it seemed like, given the boss was apparently willing to let them get away with murder, D-Generation X were going to be running WWE for the foreseeable future. That was until this leaving him pretty much immobile afterwards and unable to compete for the next 2 months. And on top of that, it was on this very same show that another blow would come for the degenerates as Stone Cold Steve Austin, the man clearly being positioned as the next face of the company, would win the titular Royal Rumble match that night, with this giving him a shot at HBK's title at the upcoming WrestleMania 14. By now, though, unsure if he was ever even going to be able to get in the ring again, the champ spiraled deeper into drug addiction, something he'd been struggling with for some time at that point, and which got so bad that Triple H basically had to start acting as his full-time carer, helping to get him cleaned up and ready before every on-screen appearance.
That's like not easy at all, because you have to deal with your own demons, you have to deal with your own job, and then at the same time you have to help someone, babysit someone like this, like Triple H, like that takes 2 careers in one. Like, that is a lot of work, and I'm respecting him for that.
In the end, however, despite the incredible amounts of pain he was in, HBK would get in the ring for WrestleMania 14, eventually dropping the title to Austin there despite concerns beforehand that he might go into business for himself. Still, after that, it was clear that he wasn't going to be able to wrestle again, and so, at just 32 years old, he would be forced to announce his retirement, with Triple H coming out the next night on Raw to tell fans that, while his friend may have dropped the ball, he was only too happy to pick it up, as going forward, he would be forming D-Generation X Mark II, with this one including himself, China, the New Age Outlaws, and the surprise return of an old Click friend in Sean Waltman, now going by X-Pac. Yes, DX had been able to rise from and would lead the group into a feud with the Nation of Domination as they formally became babyfaces for the first time. Their sophomoric antics by then being too much for fans to not cheer anymore. Yes, it was during this period that DX would famously invade a WCW show being held across the street from Raw on April 27th, 1998, driving a Jeep up to the doors of the building and demanding that they be let in. All while Triple H riled up the crowd of fans watching into admitting WCW sucked, accusing the company of being forced to give away free tickets so as to fill up the venue. And as if that wasn't enough, back in the ring, and the feud with the Nation was heating up even further, as the group of degenerates would lampoon them during a segment on the July 6th episode of Raw, with them there each dressing up as a different member of the heel group and mocking them with cartoonish impressions. But while this segment was certainly popular at the time, it's one you're unlikely to see referenced on WWE TV today.
Definitely we will not see reference. This looks like a bad move in today's time and age. Yeah, nah, this would not work today.
Given that it's become controversial in the years since for its use of blackface.
Exactly.
That said, though, this was the climate of the time, with it being the era of South Park.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I think South Park still goes there. I think South Park and Simpsons probably, like, they still go there. They don't care at all. But yeah, this would not work anymore. I have nothing to say.
Lapped it up as it was happening.
I don't want to.
And they lapped it up just as much when the game moved into a singles feud with The Rock from there, with both men battling it out to see who would become the next top guy in the company. A battle that would ultimately see Triple H beat the Great One in a ladder match at that year's SummerSlam on August 30th.
Dude.
That said, though, it wasn't all rainbows for the fan favorites in 1998, as they would soon have to face a ghost from the past when Shawn Michaels returned to the company as the new on-screen commissioner, with him now acting as a foil to his former friends, making their life difficult at every turn. And as it happened, this adversarial relationship was also being mirrored off-screen as, by then, tired of dealing with HBK and his drug-addled behavior, the game would cut him out of his life for a period, with this severing their years-long friendship.
I mean, let's be honest, if you are trying to help someone for so many years and nothing is changing, you just have to give up at one point, because you know that it's just affecting you negatively, even though there is this, I'm sure he still loved him, and I'm sure he still had compassion towards him, but for your own sake and for your own health and whatever, like, you have to end that relationship, friendship.
And further adding to these woes, back on screen, DX would gradually begin to fall apart as they started to turn on each other and go their own separate ways throughout the course of 1999, with this all kicking off on January 25th of that year when China abandoned the group so as to join up with the corporation instead.
The betrayal!
Soon after this, it would be revealed that Triple H had once again returned to the dark side too when he turned on X-Pac at WrestleMania 15, there reuniting with the Ninth Wonder of the World once more as the two became a power couple within the corporation.
Oh, now they're a couple?
And so now, with only 3 members left, X-Pac would try to recruit Kane into the stable so as to bolster up the ranks.
And he did,
this,
right?
however, was something that would be met with resistance from Billy Gunn, and as a result, in the weeks that followed, he would grow more and more frustrated with X-Pac, eventually attacking him on the March 2nd, 1999 episode of Sunday Night Heat and turning heel, as he from there went out on his own. So with only 2 now left standing, you would think it would have made sense for Waltman and Road Dogg to call it a day there and go their separate ways. In the end, though, rather than doing this, they chose to limp on for a while yet, acting as a tag team who desperately clung to the glory days of DX. But after a while, even this would run its course, with many from there expecting that the group was dead for good. That's why it came as such a surprise to those people then when, on October 25th of that year, the group would come back together once more, this time acting as full-blown villains as they helped the game to hold on to the WWE title that he just recently won.
Okay.
And further solidifying
Kane
this
got
heel
some
turn,
help here.
X-Pac would turn on his friend Kane at this point too, with this leading to the two feuding for the next couple of months as, elsewhere, the New Age Outlaws would return to the tag team division, all while Triple H segued into a feud with Vince McMahon himself. A feud that would soon see the game try to get one over on the boss by getting his daughter Stephanie drunk and then marrying her in a shotgun wedding in Vegas.
Oh, okay, this is why.
Yes, despite Triple H and Chyna's real-life relationship being well publicized by that point, in storyline, the two would remain separate as the ninth wonder of the world was tactically left out
Wait. So at that point, he was in a real-life relationship with Chyna. But publicizing him and Stephanie's relationship and like getting married, not really, but like in the show. If I were Chyna, like I don't know how I would handle this. I would be so jealous, especially that they did grow real feelings and they ended up together. IRL. Oh, the betrayal.
this version of DX, with this setting the stage for the WWE Champion to eventually reveal to the world that Stephanie had in fact been in on the whole thing all along, and that she had fallen in love with Triple H after seeing how he'd gone after her father, the very father who had tried to sacrifice her to The Undertaker earlier that same year.
Wow, McMahon,
and as the months went on, this storyline relationship would become something else entirely, as it eventually blossomed into a real-life romance, with Chyna ending up being the odd woman out in this love triangle, something which would contribute towards her exit from the company soon thereafter. Still, Stephanie wouldn't be the only female member of this version of DX, as she would soon be joined by X-Pac's new girlfriend Tori as well, the very same woman who had previously been storyline involved with Kane and who had recently turned on him as part of the Big Red Machine's still ongoing feud with Waltman.
Oh my God!
And so now, with the third incarnation fully formed, the Degenerates would find themselves.
If they're like really hot women, they're like just playing these roles the whole time. Like they're ending up with every single successful or more successful wrestler. Like, hey, yo, you got the championship this year. I'm gonna end up with you and cheat. Like, I hate that. That give you like a bad idea about women and how they are following successful men and the success and like trying their best to just use and abuse their beauty and looks. I don't like that, and I think now we don't have a lot of that storyline anymore. Like women are way more respected in the wrestling sports than they were back in the day.
The script and acting as authority figures for the first time, with this role coming as a result of Triple H and Stephanie's power couple temporarily driving both Vince and Shane McMahon out of the company at the start of 2000. And as authority figures, DX would make life a living hell for every babyface on the roster, with them saving a particular level of wrath for Mick Foley, the man whom the game would feud with over the WWE title in January and February. Hell, even when Vince and Shane returned in March, it wouldn't change the power dynamics much, as they would soon find themselves on the same side as the heels again, with this only serving to solidify DX's power even more, as they continued to reign strong as the top stable in the industry. And that was how it went for the first half of 2000 then, with the DX McMahon-Helmsley faction running things, helping to keep Triple H in the title picture with The Rock, while elsewhere, Stephanie McMahon was becoming the women's champion, and Road Dogg and X-Pac were returning to tag team action. Sure, there would be bumps in the road for the group, like when Billy Gunn was ousted after suffering an injury that took him out of action for a while, but aside from that, the future looked bright for the corporate degenerates. Unfortunately, though, as with all good things, it would have to come to an end eventually. And this would happen in the summer of that year when Road Dogg and X-Pac, frustrated with their lack of success as a team, turned on each other prior to SummerSlam, with this situation ending up leading to a match between the two at that pay-per-view as they but this didn't really matter to Triple.
I think he had to like cancel it a bit because a lot of the segments in the video creation get copyrighted, and then in order to not lose a lot of revenue on a really hard-working video, they usually just trim it or cut it through YouTube, and that's why we have these cuts. I sometimes have the same issue with my videos. YouTube is a bit harsh when it comes to these things. However, sorry, I'm still a bit sick. What I wanted to say is that it is true, like if you see that something is not working, like them together are not working, then try to pursue a career as single wrestlers or try something else and different, and there is no shame in that. It's a bit sad to see that good friends who work together have to like turn against each other, even if it is on script. It still feels a bit sad. and it's something that we have seen a lot of time happening, especially now in with oh my god, with Chris and Adam. Okay, took me some time for the names.
H anymore because he, by then, no longer needed them, as he'd become one of the top stars in the industry on his own merits, with this being somewhere he would remain for the rest of his career. And so, aside from one more brief team-up to take on the Radicals on the November 6th episode of Raw later that year, that would be it for the stable, all until 2006, of course, by which point one of the OG members of the group, Shawn Michaels, would have returned from his career-ending injury. Yes, a couple of years prior to this fourth reunion.
Why did he stress injury? I feel like it was injury, but it was also drug addiction.
HBK would have made his return to the ring, his back injury having had time to heal up during his time away. Ultimately, though, at that point, the storyline would see the two feud together for a while instead, having one of the best matches in WWE history at SummerSlam 2002 in the process.
Oh my god, I want to see that.
That said, come 2006, it looked like it was finally going to be on, as at WrestleMania 22 in April of that year, both men would perform crotch chops during the respective matches, with them from there increasingly being interlinked on screen again, as finding a common enemy in the McMahons, they eventually decided it was time to return to the glories of the past, as on the June 12th episode of Raw, they would formally reunite once more, taking on the Boss's hired guns, the Spirit Squad, in a 5-on-2 handicap match at June 25th's Vengeance. But despite the excitement of seeing the duo back together again, fans who enjoyed the stable's shock jock antics of the 90s were ultimately left somewhat disappointed when it became clear that by now, as well as Michael's born-again Christian beliefs. And while some older fans would criticize this new iteration of the once outrageous stable for these reasons, a lot of kids would get introduced to them for the first time here too, with this ending up being their version of DX.
Okay.
Even Triple H, who by then was a real-life member of the McMahon family, the irony of which wasn't lost on him as he would playfully play this up in his promos, argued that there was no way they could ever go back to being the braggadocious couple of kids they'd been in the 90s because they were by now pushing 40 and simply weren't those people anymore.
Yeah.
So with that in mind then, the fourth iteration of DX would see much more cartoon-like antics as the duo repeatedly made fools of Vince and Shane. As well as that, they would have a notable feud against Rated RKO, with the elder statesman here helping to get Edge and Randy Orton over to another level. That said though, as time went on and both men would take sabbaticals from TV at various points, the focus became less and less on DX and more on their singles actions once again, with this being something that was especially noticeable when HBK became intent on ending The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak in 2009 and 2010, so much so that he would even put his own career on the line. And when Shawn was ultimately unable to do this, being forced to retire as a result, Triple H, in one last show of solidarity to his friend, would spend the next 2 years trying to beat the Dead Man too, with all this climaxing in the Hell in a Cell end of an era match at WrestleMania 28, which saw Michaels even act as a special guest referee. After that night, though, realizing he was unable to beat The Undertaker, the game would move on to other things as the Heartbreak Kid settled into retirement. And well, from there would be the occasional one-night reunions, such as the time Michaels returned at Raw 1000 on July 23, 2012, calling out Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, and X-Pac as all 5 members, Triple H included, celebrated in the ring. It was clear that the days of DX as an active stable were done, and that anything else that happened with it now was going to be an exercise in nostalgia. Still, it was a nice piece of nostalgia regardless, and one that WWE would only be too happy to play up whenever they needed to pop a quick rating going forward. Hell, at one point, the company would even convince Triple H and HBK to get in the ring one more time when Michaels came out of retirement for one night at November 2nd, 2018's Crown Jewel. But the less said about that one, the better. No, the best thing to do is to remember DX for what it was across its various incarnations, one of the best and most influential wrestling stables of all time. Yes, whether it be the original collective of bratty heels, the later faction of fun-loving babyfaces, the authority figures of the McMahon-Helmsley era, or the middle-aged goofballs of the mid-2000s, D-Generation X will always remain one of the best things about WWE. And if you're not down with that,
you ended the video like that? I am mad. If I can actually breathe through my nose right now. fine. It's fine. Not that like I'm missing a couple of things in this video that got me out of it and I cannot understand what happened in the meantime, but I'm trying my best to okay, it was a really good video nonetheless. Like, I really learned a lot. I think it could go more in depth with some of the timelines and some of the relationships they had. I feel like with China as well, like they really abruptly ended it, but it was fun. It was good. It was informative, and I learned a thing or two about DX. Hell yeah! Also, like, I'm really interested in checking some of those fights in more depth with Undertaker and Steve Austin as well. Like, I'm really interested in these ones. I remember back in 2006 when DX reunited, people at school were doing the DX shop all over the place. I did it and got detention. Completely worth it. You would get detention just for doing this? What? It's a bit silly with the hip, but it's fun. I feel like it's really like manly for some goofy guys, like younger guys. Yeah, not really old guys doing it though. During peak DX, my friend's daughter was in a school play. She was probably not even 10 yet. At the end of the play, all the actors came out to take a bow, and the sweet, innocent looking tiny little girl did the DX suck it across her pelvis in front of the entire school and the parents. It was hilarious. Her mom was mortified. Oh, this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, no. Oh my god. Okay, guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed my reaction. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And if you want to share extra love, then you can go to the share button, click on it, and copy the link. You don't have to share it anywhere, but just copying the link does help tremendously the channel and this video to get promoted to a newer audience. But that is it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow.